Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It's Friday, April 4th, 2025, and today's topic is, it's going to be about rendering details for a landscape, which is this one. And I'll post yesterday's video. I'll post a link to it. And it's kind of it started with this one. I called this the joy of sketching. This was from a couple of days ago, and then in yesterday's video I basically kind of did a step-by-step, but like a demo of how I came up with this sketch basically, and now it's like a color sketch. Before I forget, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. So let me start a 10-minute timer. And then the other thing I wanted to do was post a black and white picture, which I did yesterday of this. I turned it into like a black and white picture, or like grayscale. It's one way to check like the values. So like I'm used to it, so it looked okay to me, but I'll keep pushing the values. But you don't have to, is what I'm saying. And so yeah, I'll put like a grayscale image, and I think it'll show this one too, so you can kind of see, because for me this is really about like experimenting with like the color part of it, but you can see how color can translate to value, like how they work and stuff. So that's why values and drawing and stuff is important, even if like the idea is to color something or to paint something. Also, I did one where I did a picture where, I'll put that one up here too, where I put a grid on this page, the sketchbook page. So composition has been something I've been, I talk about it pretty frequently, but I talked about it when I was working on this. And so you can kind of see, like, even just eyeballing it, like the composition works, but I put a grid on it. So if you're still kind of learning about it, you might want to do that. So I did that for a while. And so after a while, you can kind of eyeball it or get a feel for like composition basically. So it depends on the approach. Like this is different than this. Now that I'm kind of here for the sky, for example, part of it is I'm just using like what I have. I have this personal initiative that I call make use of, because I have just like a bunch of supplies and stuff that I'm organizing. And so I'm just kind of making use of what I have. And part of that is fun. And part of it is like organizing, and part of it is just kind of like a principle that I'm living by these days. I just want to use what I have rather than just letting it sit there. So part of this is because this is the only side that works for this color, because this other side doesn't really work, the chisel point. So I'm just going to do this. And in the black and white picture that I was just talking about, the grayscale version of this is kind of like a gray, because like all of this is pretty much like kind of gray. Kind of the darkest areas are these. But once I get to this point, again, depending on the approach, I'm just going to just move the page around, and at this point it's really more about details, rendering, and also like it's therapeutic. I can kind of enter a flow state, because since pretty much like the picture's here, like I pretty much know what to expect. Now it's just about making it look pretty. And I was thinking how in the previous video, to me that's kind of like the creative part of it, where I sketched this out and like figured out the composition, and it's basically like the drawing and the picture and everything. To me, like that's the creative part of it. But then when I get to this part, I kind of think of this as like the artistic part, because it's about making it look nice, which it can look different ways, like as far as how to make it look nice and everything. And I'm usually kind of experimenting with it. So yeah, part of it is just like the mood, and also the technique So like this is kind of, I'm just kind of cross hatching with the color, and then eventually the idea is that it'll blend. Also, I have the feeling that I'm probably going to go in with like a finer point, like color pen, like the really, like the thinner ones. But I'm going to use sort of this size for a while, just to get the colors down. And part of the colors and stuff is just coming from, well, I initially chose these colors. Part of it was just to kind of go with the page, and part of it was to kind of limit the palette a little bit, and then just to experiment with what that looked like and how many colors I can get with just like kind of a limited palette and like with the tools that I had. But then it's also from just kind of looking at different like pictures. So yeah, sometimes I kind of like to just kind of limit certain things just so I can really know like what effect is happening. Kind of like even with sketching it, I wanted to just kind of sketch it from imagination so I could know what I actually knew how to draw. So for example, I accidentally kind of made a ship just by sketching. It kind of looked like that, and so I just looked up a ship, for example, and it might just be pretty vague. The other kind of principle is to build it up gradually, kind of like, but you don't have to. This one was a little bit more bold. I just picked certain values and just went in and just did it, but like it looks different too. So yeah, it just depends on the approach. But I always say at this, so if I were to, if I were to talk about which stage this is, I would say this is still shading. It's just that it's with color. But I would still call it shading, but like kind of heading into like detail. I would usually have a little area that kind of lets me know like, okay, well that's kind of like the next stage, but like all of it doesn't have to look like that. I mean, it could, but it doesn't have to. And there's things that have to do with, since I am talking about like rendering, things like edges, like it's part of rendering. So I'm kind of keeping that in mind. But like just gradually, I'm just kind of building it up gradually. For this technique I am. Sometimes you can just kind of go in and just do it, but there's kind of a certain look and a certain approach, and sometimes it can be more relaxing to kind of just do it this way. So like for the sky, for example, the white of the paper is like a color and it is like a value. So basically it's going from this kind of like gray, but it's like blue, but the value of it, like kind of a mid-tone moving into this. And if I were to add another color, depending on the value of it, it would kind of affect things. So right now there's like a gradation, which I guess my point is I could stick with this color and it would be okay. But those are sort of these artistic choices. And yeah, you have to be kind of patient with this part, since the drawing is already here. It's just about making it look as nice as you can. So that's 10 minutes. It's not going to be too much to this. Let me know if you have any questions. part of this is just kind of an experiment with, for me, like just kind of using these markers and like the colors and stuff. But also it's practice to just come up with like a scene or a landscape, and just kind of work on the water. It's like a seascape landscape. Well, there's land, so I'm going to call it a landscape. That's going to be it for today. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine, and if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it, and until next time, keep on sketching.